Welcome to Marketing Momentum on the Rise, the show where we burn off the noise, fix what's broken in your growth engine, and rebuild with clarity. I'm Sterling Phoenix, and if your funnel's stalled, your message is ghosting your buyers, or your team can't agree on what's actually working, this is the Clarity Pass you didn't know you needed. Let's go. Most companies aren't failing at AI because the tech is bad. They're failing because they're automating the wrong things, and it's killing their momentum. I'm talking about the exec who proudly shows off an AI chatbot that frustrates every customer who touches it, or the marketing director who automated blog posts that no one reads, or the operations leader who implemented, quote, AI insights that sit in dashboards gathering digital dust. You know what all of these have in common? They look innovative and they sound impressive in meetings, but they're not actually moving the needle on the metrics that matter. And here's the brutal truth. While you're busy automating the easy things, your competitors are automating things that print money. If that hits a nerve, good. That means you're ready for what comes next. Today, we're tackling the elephant in every boardroom. You're automating the wrong things. You're not just automating the wrong way. I'm talking about the wrong things entirely. You're busy automating the easy stuff, the low stakes busy work, the tasks that make your tech stack look modern but don't actually change your company's trajectory. And here's what that costs you: wasted budget, burned credibility, and a resume that screams, I chase trends instead of I deliver results. Because here's the reality: if your AI stack isn't lowering customer acquisition costs and improving conversion rates and shortening sales cycles, you're not automating. You're just busy decorating. And decoration does not get you promoted, it doesn't impress boards, and it definitely doesn't future proof your business or your career. So today, we're going to fix this. Together, we're going to identify exactly what you should be automating, why most leaders get this catastrophically wrong, and how to turn your AI investments into actual measurable ROI. By the end of this episode, you're going to have a framework, what I call the Clarity First AI filter. That'll save you from ever greenlighting another automation project that goes nowhere. Ready? Let's rise. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud in leadership meetings. Most AI implementations are pure theater. They look impressive, they get applause at company all hands, and they make great LinkedIn posts. But they're not actually creating value, they're creating the appearance of innovation. And I need you to understand something. Automation theater is expensive in ways that go far beyond your software budget. Think about what happens when you automate the wrong things. First, you burn budget on tools that never pay for themselves. You're spending tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, on enterprise AI platforms that generate reports no one reads and automate tasks that weren't bottlenecks in the first place. Second, you burn your team's trust. Every time you roll out another game changing AI tool that makes their jobs harder instead of easier, you lose credibility. Your best people start tuning out when you mention AI because they've learned it means more work, not less. And third, and this one is the one that should terrify you, you burn your window of competitive advantage. While you're busy automating meeting notes and generating mediocre blog content, your competitor is using AI to cut their customer acquisition costs by 40% and predict churn before it happens and close deals in half the time. That gap widens every quarter. And by the time you realize you've been automating the wrong things, you're so far behind catching up, requires a complete strategic reset. So here's what automation theater actually looks like. Let me paint you a picture, and then tell me if this sounds familiar. Your marketing team implements an AI content generator, and it pumps out 3 blog posts a week. None of them rank, none of them convert, but hey, you're using AI, right? Or maybe your customer service team They might deploy a chatbot that's supposed to handle common questions. But instead, it's busy frustrating customers so badly that your CSAT scores drop and your human agents spend half their time apologizing for the bot. Or here's one of my personal favorites, the quote, AI powered insights dashboard that cost a fortune to build. And it generates 47 different metrics and sits completely unused because nobody knows what to take action on based on what it shows. That's automation theater, and it's everywhere. And here's why smart leaders fall into this trap. Now, before you think I'm calling you out specifically, I'm not. This trap is designed to catch smart people. And here's why it happens. You're under so much pressure to innovate. Boards want to hear you're, quote, doing AI. Investors want proof you're not getting left behind. So you feel compelled to implement something, anything, even if you don't have it all figured out or you don't even know what is right. And then there are vendor promises. AI vendors are selling dreams right now. They build these beautiful demo interfaces and they create impressive sounding capabilities and case studies that may or may not even be real. You're not a technical expert, so you trust them. And when they say this will transform your operations, you get on board. And then there are surface level metrics. It's easy to measure blog posts created or customer messages handled by a bot. It's so much harder to measure the number of strategic decisions that were accelerated or revenue leaks prevented. So you're busy optimizing for the easy metrics and telling yourself it's progress. And then there's the fear of missing out. Everyone else seems to be automating everything. You don't want to be the leader who doesn't get AI, so you automate something just to stay relevant. I get it. The pressure is real. But here's what I need you to understand: activity is not the same as progress. So here's how you break free from automation theater. Before you approve any AI project, any automation initiative, any smart tool implementation, you ask one brutal question: will this make us faster at something that actually makes us money or cheaper at something that costs money? Not will this generate more content? Not will this make us look super innovative? Not will this create interesting data? But will this make us faster at making money or cheaper at what costs money? If the answer isn't a clear, immediate yes, if you have to squint and say, well, maybe eventually it could, then you're about to waste resources on theater, and you deserve better than that. Look, I'm not here to shame you if you've fallen into this trap. Most leaders have. I've seen billion-dollar companies automate all the wrong things while their core revenue engines run in spreadsheets and hope. But awareness is the first step to transformation. And now that you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So let's move from diagnosis to prescription. Let's talk about how leadership teams are evaluating your AI decisions and why most leaders are telling the wrong story. Here's something that might sting a little. The story you're telling about your AI wins is the story keeping you from your next opportunity. Let me explain what I mean. What you're saying versus what they're hearing looks something like this. When you sit down for that presentation or that investor update or that executive interview, and you talk about your AI initiatives with pride, and you say things like, we implemented an AI tool that automates our meeting notes, or we're using machine learning to generate social media content, or we deployed a chatbot that handles 60% of initial customer inquiries. You're thinking you're demonstrating innovation, technical savvy, forward thinking leadership. But here's what your audience actually hears: I can spend budget on convenience features that don't impact the bottom line. I'm busy chasing trends instead of solving core business problems. And I can't tell the difference between tasks and outcomes. That's not the story that gets you promoted. It's the story that gets you passed over. Let me tell you what makes a leader lean forward in their chair. Something more like we implemented AI that detects 90-day renewal risks before the account team even sees the warning signs. Last quarter, it saved us 10 million in churn. For this, we let AI reallocate our ad spend in real time based on conversion signals. Our customer acquisition costs dropped 18% in 60 days, and we redirected that savings into scaling our top performing channels. Or even something like this. We built an AI scoring system that predicts which leads will close in 30 days with an 84% accuracy. Our sales team stopped wasting time on low probability deals, and our conversion rate doubled. Do you feel the difference? One story is about automation, and the other is about transformation. One just focuses on the tasks that were completed, and the other is about real revenue impact. The first makes you sound busy, and the other makes you sound indispensable. Here's what most leaders don't realize until it's far too late. When you lead with automation metrics instead of business outcomes, you're positioning yourself as a middle manager who implements tools, not as a strategic executive that actually drives results. And that distinction matters more today than it ever has. No one is excited about leaders who just use AI. That's table stakes now. Everyone uses AI. They're searching for leaders who can answer the question, how did AI create measurable value under your leadership? And we automated 500 hours of meeting notes is not a compelling answer. But we reduced customer churn by 23% by automating early warning detection and intervention workflows. Well, now that's a story that makes you stand out. And that's a story that gets you to the next level. And that's a story that makes you unforgettable. Here's the quick exercise I want you to do after this episode. Go take a look at your LinkedIn profile. Look at your recent posts about AI and look at how you're describing your innovation initiatives. Now ask yourself, am I talking about what I automated or what I achieved? If your AI story sounds like a feature list, well, you're just leaving opportunity on the table. But if your AI story sounds like a case study with a problem, a solution, and measurable outcome, then you're telling the story that leaders or recruiters are hunting for. So, how do you shift from task level storytelling to outcome level storytelling? Well, it's simpler than you think. You just need to reframe every automation win through the lens of business impact. Instead of saying things like, we automated customer support ticket routing, you say, we cut first response time by 40% and improved customer satisfaction scores by 12 points by intelligently routing tickets based on urgency and agent expertise. Or instead of, we use AI to generate email campaigns, you say, we increase email conversion rates by 28% by personalizing the sending times, subject lines, and content based on individual engagement patterns. Or instead of saying something like, oh, well, we built an AI dashboard for sales forecasting, you say, we reduced forecast error by 35% and gave our CFO confidence to accelerate hiring in Q4 because our AI model accurately predicted which deals would close. See the pattern? Every automation should connect back to a metric that actually matters to the business. Things like revenue gained or cost reduced or speed increased or risk prevented. If you can't make that connection, well, you're automating the wrong things. And here's the beautiful thing about getting this right. Most of your peers are stuck in automation theater. They're still bragging about tasks automated instead of value created, which means when you show up with a clear, compelling, outcome focused AI initiative, you stand out like a spotlight in a dark room. You become the leader everyone wants. You become the executive board's trust with transformation initiatives. You become the person who doesn't just keep up with the future. You're the person who builds it. And it all starts with telling the right story. So let's make sure you have the right story to tell. Let's talk about what you could actually be automating. The high leverage targets that create real, measurable, career defining results. Let's get tactical. Let's talk about the automations that actually matter, the ones that compress time, reduce risk, accelerate revenue, and position you as the leader who gets it. The automations I'm about to walk you through aren't theoretical. These are the patterns I see working across industries, company stages, and business models. And they all have one thing in common: they live at friction points where speed, scale, and accuracy create real leverage. Now, let me break that down. The first category are bottlenecks and decisions. The most expensive waste in most organizations isn't labor, it's the amount of time spent making decisions that could be automated. Think about how many decisions your team makes in a day. Which leads should we prioritize? Which deals most likely close? Which customers are at risk? Which marketing channels should get more budget? Which product features should we build next? Every single one of those decisions requires data and judgment and time. And when humans are the bottleneck, decisions get delayed and opportunities get missed and momentum dies. This is where AI creates disproportionate value. So, lead scoring and prioritization. Instead of your sales team guessing at which leads to call first, AI analyzes historical patterns, engagement signals, and firmographic data to predict which leads are actually going to convert. So your team stops wasting time on dead ends and focuses on real opportunities. And deal forecasting. So instead of your sales leaders manually updating spreadsheets and using gut feel to predict the quarter, AI models assess deal health based on activity patterns, engagement frequency, and historical close rates. Your forecasts get accurate, and your CFO trusts your pipeline. You can make hiring and spending decisions with confidence when you do this. And resource allocation. So instead of quarterly planning meetings where everyone argues about budget, AI continuously analyzes performance data and reallocates spend toward what's actually working. Your marketing budget flows to high performing channels, and your product team focuses on the features that drive retention. You're eliminating waste in real time. And the common thread: these automations all accelerate decisions that directly impact revenue. They don't generate reports, they generate clarity. And clarity is what turns good companies into unstoppable ones. The next category is revenue leaks. Every business has them. These slow, invisible leaks that drain revenue so gradually you don't notice until the damage is already done. This looks like abandoned carts and dormant accounts and at risk renewals and unresponsive leads. Individually, each one of those is small, but collectively, they're catastrophic. And here's the thing: humans are terrible at preventing revenue leaks. Not because we're incompetent, but because we're not built to monitor thousands of signals simultaneously and intervene at precisely the right moment. But AI is. And then there's churn prediction and prevention. AI monitors usage patterns, support ticket sentiment, payment behaviors, and engagement frequency. And when it detects early warning signs, like a customer who used to log in daily but hasn't in 3 weeks, or an account that just submitted 3 frustrated support tickets, it triggers automated interventions before that customer even thinks about leaving. Imagine saving even 10% of your annual churn. For most B2B companies, that's millions in retained revenue. Or let's talk about cart abandonment recovery. E commerce leaders know this pain intimately. Someone loads up their cart, gets distracted, never comes back. AI can trigger personalized recovery sequences based on what was in the cart, how far they got in the checkout, and what messaging historically works for that customer segment. Or let's look at dormant account at reactivation. You have customers who signed up, used your product for a while, and then they just faded away. AI can identify them, understand why they might have churned by looking at like usage patterns, feature gaps, competitive signals, and then trigger reactivation campaigns with personalized offers. Or what about lead resurrection? Not every lead converts on the first touch. Most sales teams give up way too soon. AI tracks which leads show interest but didn't actually buy. And then it monitors trigger events like funding rounds in their company or leadership changes or tech stack shifts and alerts your team when the timing is right to re engage. These aren't nice to have automations. These are plug the holes in your revenue bucket automations. And every dollar you save by preventing a leak is more valuable than the dollar you spend acquiring new customers. Now, the third category, customer friction. Here's the truth most leaders don't want to face. Your customers experience friction every single day. And most of the time, you have no idea it's happening. Long response times, confusing handoffs between teams, or generic experiences that feel like everyone gets the same treatment, or maybe worse, unanswered questions, or difficult onboarding. Every point of friction is a trust leak. And right now, trust is your competitive moat. This is where automation can become a trust building engine. So, you start with intelligent response time optimization. AI doesn't just route support tickets, it predicts which tickets will escalate, which customers are high value, and which issues need immediate attention. Your team stops playing whack a mole and starts preventing problems before they explode. Or how about seamless handoffs? When a customer moves from marketing to sales and sales to onboarding and onboarding to support, AI can be there to ensure that context travels with them. No more, let me pull up your account delays. No more asking customers to repeat information. Just seamless trust building continuity. Or how about hyper personalization at scale? AI can track individual preferences, behaviors, and needs, and then deliver personalized experiences without requiring a human intervention. The customer who prefers video tutorials gets video tutorials, and the customer who wants concise email updates gets concise email updates. And then everyone feels seen. Or how about proactive problem solving? Instead of just waiting for customers to report issues, AI can monitor usage patterns and detect problems before they've escalated. A customer struggling with a feature, they get a triggered automated help sequence. Or a user about to hit a usage limit, you proactively can offer an upgrade path. And the result? Your customers feel like you're reading their minds. And customers who feel understood don't churn. They expand, they refer, and they become your best marketing channel. Now, the last category, testing and iteration. Here's this final amazing high leverage target, and the one that most leaders overlook. AI doesn't get tired of testing, humans do. After the third A B test that shows no significant difference, we get discouraged. We move on. We start trusting our gut instead of the data. But AI doesn't care. It'll go and run 10,000 experiments without complaining. And in those 10,000 experiments, it finds the patterns that humans miss. So this works for things like continuous ad optimization. So instead of manually adjusting ad campaigns once a week, AI can test variations constantly. Things like images and headers and audiences and placements, and reallocate budget in real time for what's actually working. Or dynamic pricing. AI can go and test price sensitivity across customer segments and adjust pricing based on demand signals and maximize revenue without leaving money on the table. Or maybe one of my favorites, email optimization. AI is super capable at testing send time, subject lines, content variations, and personalization tactics, and then learning from every single interaction to improve your future performance. Or what about website conversion optimization? AI is amazing at running multivariate tests on landing pages, or your CTAs, or your form fields, or your user flows, and continuously learning what drives conversion and implementing winning variations. The competitive advantage here is really speed. While your competitors are stuck running one test per month, you're running one per day. And you learn faster and you improve faster and you win. Do you notice the pattern across all of these categories? These automations don't replace human judgment, they amplify it. They handle the repetitive, data intensive, time sensitive work, which frees up your team to do the strategic, creative, relationship building work that humans do best. And that's the difference between automation that creates value and automation that creates theater. So, how do you decide which of these to prioritize? How do you make sure you're investing in the right automation at the right time? Well, that's where the framework comes in. Let's bring this home with a framework that you can use right now. I call it the Clarity First AI filter. And it's going to save you from ever greenlighting another automation project that goes absolutely nowhere. This isn't complicated. In fact, the power is actually in its simplicity. Before you approve any AI initiative, any automation project, any smart tool implementation, you run it through four questions. If it doesn't pass all four, you don't do it. Period. It really is that simple. So, question one: does this reduce a real cost or risk? Not a hypothetical cost, not a maybe someday risk, but a real, measurable, painful, right now cost or risk. Here's how you know if it's real. First of all, can you quantify it? If someone asked you, how much does this problem cost us per month? Could you give them a number, even a rough estimate? If the answer is no, it's probably not a real cost. It's an annoyance. And automating annoyances is how you end up with theater. Next, you ask, is it keeping someone up at night? Are executives, customers, or key team members actively complaining about this problem? Is it showing up in postmortems or customer feedback or board meetings? If nobody is losing sleep over it, it's not urgent enough to automate. And then, will fixing it have a downstream impact? Will solving this problem unlock capacity, speed up decision making, or prevent even bigger problems down the line? If it's a dead end fix, meaning you solve it and then nothing else gets better, then it's probably not worth automating. Examples that pass this test are things like, we're losing 20 million annually to churn we could have prevented with earlier warning signals. Or our sales team spends 40% of their time on leads that never convert and it's killing our pipeline velocity. Or customer support response times are driving our net promoter score down and we're losing deals because of it. Now, examples that wouldn't pass the test. Meeting notes take a few minutes to write up and nobody really reads them anyway. Or blog content is important, but we're not sure how it impacts pipeline. Or it would be nice if we had cleaner dashboards. Do you see the difference? The first group is urgent and measurable and consequential. And the second is just other wishful thinking. Now, question two: does this accelerate a decision that actually matters? Remember what we talked about earlier, that the most expensive waste in your organization is slow decision making? So the second question is simple: does this automation help you or your team make a high stakes decision faster? I'm not talking, does it generate more data or does it create a prettier report? But does it accelerate a decision that directly impacts revenue, retention, or risk? Here's the test: is there a human currently waiting for information before they can act? If your sales leader needs to know which deals to focus on, or your CMO needs to know which channels to fund, or your head of customer success needs to know which accounts to save, and they're waiting for someone to pull data, build a report, or run an analysis, that's a decision worth accelerating. Or you need to ask, will faster decisions compound over time? The best automations don't just save time once, they save it repeatedly. If you can make one high stakes decision per week instead of one per month, then that compounds into massive competitive advantage. You also need to ask, does this eliminate the gut feel guessing game? If your team is currently making important decisions based on instinct because the data is just too messy, too slow, or unreliable, and you can automate the data clarity, that's a decision worth accelerating. Some examples that pass are things like our product team needs spends 3 weeks every quarter debating which features to build next. AI could analyze usage data, customer requests, and competitive signals and prioritize that roadmap in hours. Or our ad buyers are manually reviewing campaign performance once per week. AI could reallocate spend in real time, letting them focus on creative strategy instead of spreadsheet analysis. But here's a few examples that wouldn't pass the test. We want an AI tool that summarizes Slack messages because there's a lot of chatter. Or we're building a dashboard that shows how many meetings each team has per week. If the decision doesn't matter to revenue or retention or risk, automating it's just another decoration. Now, question three, does this free humans to do higher value work? This is really the question most leaders forget to ask, and it's the one that determines whether your team is actually going to love automation or quietly resent it. Because the best automations don't replace humans, they elevate them. They take away the repetitive, soul crushing, low leverage tasks off their plate and give them time back for creative, strategic relationship building work that humans are uniquely good at. And here's how you evaluate this. First, you ask, are you automating the boring parts or the meaningful parts? If you're automating the work that people actually enjoy or find fulfilling, then you're just going to create resentment. But if you're automating the parts that they dread, like data entry or manual reporting or repetitive follow ups, you're giving them a gift. And ask, will this give your best people more time to do what you hired them for? If your star salesperson can spend 60% of their time selling instead of 40, well, that's higher value work. Or if your customer success manager can spend more time building customer relationships instead of manually tracking usage data, that's higher value work. And you also need to ask, does this eliminate toil that causes burnout? Because toil is the kind of work that's repetitive and manual and devoid of creativity and scales linearly, and it's soul crushing. If you can automate that toil, then you can reduce burnout and increase job satisfaction. So here's some examples that pass. First, our sales team spends hours every week updating CRM records and scoring leads manually. Automating that gives them time back to actually talk to customers. Or our support team is drowning in routine questions that pull them away from complex problem solving. Automating tier one support frees them to focus on the issues that require real expertise. But here's some examples that don't pass the test. We're automating creative copywriting because AI is faster. Cool. You just automated the part your copywriters love. That's a recipe for disaster. Or we're using AI to handle all customer communication so humans don't have to. Bad move. You just eliminated the relationship building that drives your actual retention and referrals. So if your automation makes your best people less engaged or less creative or less effective, you're automating the wrong things. Now, question four, can we measure the revenue impact inside 90 days? This is the forcing function, the reality check, the question that separates real transformation from expensive experiments. If you can't measure impact quickly, you can't learn or iterate or prove value. And trust me, this is going to pay off eventually. It's just not good enough. Here's what this question forces you to do. You have to define success up front before you implement anything. You need to know exactly what metric will move if this works. Customer acquisition cost, conversion rate, churn, sales cycle length, first response time. If you can't define it, you're not ready to build it. Next, pick a short feedback loop. 90 days is not arbitrary. It's long enough to gather meaningful data, but short enough to still correct course if something's not working. It forces you to pick automations that have near term impact and not crazy 5-year strategic bets. And then you also have to ensure you can track it. Do you have the data infrastructure to measure the before and after? Do you have a baseline? If you're guessing at the impact because you can't measure it, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So, here's some examples that would pass. Like, we'll implement AI lead scoring and track whether our sales team's conversion rate increases within 60 days. Or we'll automate churn detection and measure how many at risk accounts we save in quarter one. Or we'll optimize ad spend with AI and track whether the cost of customer acquisition drops within 90 days. Here's some examples that don't pass though. This will improve employee satisfaction over time. It's just too vague and too slow. Or we think this will help with brand perception eventually. If you can't measure it, it's too indirect. Or this is a foundational investment that will pay off down the line. There's no near term feedback loop. If you can't measure it fast, then you're not automating strategically. You're just hoping. So now you need to put this filter into practice. So here's your homework. Go back to your current AI roadmap and list out every automation project you're running or considering, and run each one through these 4 questions. And circle the ones that passed all 4, and cross out the ones that don't. And then take an honest look at what's left. If most of your initiatives got crossed out, you're not behind. You're about to leapfrog your competition by redirecting your resources toward what actually matters. And if you have projects that pass all 4 questions but aren't funded yet, those are your priorities. Stop spreading your budget across 10 mediocre automations. Just go all in on the 2 or 3 that are generally going to transform your business. Because here's the truth. Today, doing less with precision beats doing more with noise. All right, we've covered the tactical side, what to automate, how to evaluate it, and how to avoid the theater. But let's zoom out for a minute and talk about why this matters to you. Because here's something most leaders don't realize until they're sitting across from a recruiter or a board member or their senior leadership team. The way you talk about AI is either positioning you as a rising star or as someone who's just coasting. And the difference comes down to one thing. Are you automating strategically or are you just checking boxes? You've probably seen this happen. Maybe it's even happened to you. A leadership role opens up, VP, C suite, board seat, whatever the next level is. And the job description mentions AI transformation, digital strategy, or innovation leadership. And you think, I've got this. We've implemented AI tools. I've led automation projects. I'm the obvious choice. And then someone else gets the job. Someone with less tenure, less experience, and maybe even less technical expertise. So what happened? Well, here's what happened. They told a better story. While you were talking about the tasks automated, they were talking about the outcomes delivered. And while you were talking about your great list of tools implemented, they were sharing revenue impact. While you were saying we use AI, they were saying we were faster and spent less because of how we deployed AI. That difference is everything. The story makes you unforgettable. So let me give you 2 versions of the same career story, and you tell me which one lands harder. Version 1. I led our AI transformation initiative. We implemented machine learning for lead scoring, automated our content generation, and deployed chatbots across customer support. We're now recognized as an AI forward organization. Or version 2. I identified that our biggest revenue blocker was sales teams wasting 60% of their time on leads that would never convert. So I implemented an AI lead scoring system that predicts conversion probability with 83% accuracy. Within 90 days, our sales team's close rate doubled. Our sales cycle shortened by 3 weeks, and we hit 140% of our annual quota. That freed up budget to expand the team by 30%, which compounded our growth into the next year. Feel the difference? Version 1 sounds very much like every other AI leader. It's vague, it's unmemorable, and it doesn't tell what actually changed. But version 2 tells me you're a problem solver who drives measurable results. It tells me you understand business, not just technology. And it tells me you can connect strategy to execution and outcomes. That's the story that gets you promoted and recruited. Here's the questions that you need to be ready to answer. What problem were you trying to solve? Why did you choose to automate this particular thing? How did you measure success? And what did you learn that changed your approach? And finally, what would you do differently if you did it again? Practice your answers to these questions. Write them down, refine them, because when the opportunity comes, you won't have time to think. You'll need to deliver. Here's the landscape you're competing in. Every executive is expected to have some AI literacy. That's table stakes. It's like expecting a leader to know how to use email today. So the differentiator isn't do you use AI, but do you use AI strategically? And here's what strategic looks like right now. You don't chase every AI trend. You focus on the automations that solve real problems. You measure outcomes, not activity. You can actually quantify the ROI of every automation you've ever deployed. And you talk about business impact, not technical features. Your narrative is about the problems you've solved, not the tools you've used to do it. And you're comfortable saying no. You've turned down automation projects because they didn't pass your filter. That shows judgment. And you've built a track record of doing less and achieving more. You're not the leader with 47 AI pilots. You're the leader with 3 automations that actually transform the business. That's the profile that gets you on the short list for every major opportunity that is ever going to come your way. So, here's what you need to understand about all this. Most of your peers haven't figured this out yet. They're stuck in automation theater and they're still bragging about tasks automated instead of outcomes delivered. And they're chasing the shiny tools instead of solving real problems, which means you have a window and it's probably 18 to 24 months where getting this right creates disproportionate competitive advantage. The executives who figure this out now are going to be the ones running AI-driven companies in 2027. The ones who don't will be explaining in interviews why their AI initiatives didn't deliver. Which side of that divide do you want to be on? This is the move you should make this week. This is what career-level strategic thinking tools look like in practice. You're going to go do an audit, not just of your AI stack, but actually of your AI narrative. Open up a document and write down every automation or AI project you've led or been part of. For each one, ask yourself, can I tell a compelling story about the business impact this created? If yes, refine that story. Make it crisp, make it memorable, and then practice saying it out loud until it feels natural. If no, then that project doesn't belong in your narrative. Remove it from your LinkedIn, take it out of your resume, stop mentioning it in meetings. Because every time you talk about an automation that didn't create measurable value, you're training people to see you as someone who implements tools instead of someone who drives transformation. Your narrative is your brand. Make sure it reflects the leader you're becoming, not the manager you used to be. All right, now let's land this with something you can do immediately. Not next quarter, not after you get your budget approved, but this week. Because clarity without action is just entertainment. And you didn't listen to this episode just to be entertained. You came here to get better. So here's your move. This is your 1-week AI audit. Step 1, list everything. Open up a spreadsheet. In the first column, list every single automation or AI tool your company is currently running. Every chatbot, every dashboard, every smart feature, every automation workflow. Be exhaustive. Include the stuff that's working, the stuff that's failing, and the stuff that nobody uses anymore, but you're still paying for. Now, step 2, apply the clarity first filter. Create four more columns with these headers. Reduces real cost slash risk, accelerates decision that matters, frees humans for higher value work, and finally, measurable impact in 90 days. Then go through each automation and honestly answer yes or no for each question. Now, step 3, highlight your winners. Every automation that got 4 yeses, big bold highlight. These are your strategic automations, the ones that are actually creating value and the ones you should be talking about, the ones that deserve continued investment. Now, step 4, block out every automation that got 3 or fewer yeses. These are just your decoration projects, and they're not creating strategic value. Now, here's the hard part. You need to stop all of this. I know this feels super scary because you've invested time and money and credibility into those projects. And walking away usually feels like admitting failure. But here's the truth, sunk cost is sunk. Every week you keep running an automation that doesn't create value is just another week you're wasting resources that could be redirected to something that does. Be ruthless. Cut the dead weight. And step 5, reallocate. Take that budget, time, and attention you were spending on all those blacked out automations and redirect it toward one of two things. Option A, double down on your winners. If you got an automation that's working, what would happen if you gave it 3 times the resources? Could you expand it into more teams, more use cases, more customers? Or option 2, fund the highest impact automation you're not doing yet. Remember those friction points we talked about earlier? Pick the one that would create the most leverage and actually build it. Just don't spread your resources too thin. Go all in on what matters. Now, 4 weeks from now, I want you to revisit your list. For each automation you kept, you need to go back and re-ask, what metric has moved? By how much? What did you learn? What needs to change? If you can't answer these questions, you're still doing theater. Dig deeper. And for the automation you killed, what happened when you turned it off? Did anyone notice? Did any metrics get worse? If nothing bad happened, then you made the right call. If something did break, you learned where the hidden value was and you can rebuild it with better clarity. So, here's what I want for you. 6 months from now, I want you to be able to sit across from an executive team, a board member, a recruiter, or your CEO and tell this story. 6 months ago, we were running 15 different AI initiatives. Some were working, most weren't. I did an audit using a strategic filter and realized we're automating the wrong things, easy stuff that looked innovative but didn't actually move the needle. So I made the hard call. We killed 60% of our AI projects and we redirected that investment into the 3 automations that actually created leverage. And then you give them specific examples with specific outcomes. The result are whatever your key metric is improved by this specific number. And then we reduce whatever cost or risk was involved by whatever specific amount. And we freed up a specific amount of time or budget that we then reinvested into a new strategic initiative. And then you say, I learned that doing less with precision beats doing more with noise. And that's the approach I bring to whatever the role, the opportunity, or the challenge that you're discussing with them. That's the story that makes you unforgettable. And that's the story that gets you promoted or recruited or trusted with the transformation initiatives that define careers. And it starts with the audit you do this week. All right, let's bring this home. Here's the one thing I want you to remember from this whole episode. Automating the wrong things isn't just wasteful, it's expensive. It costs you budget, and it costs you credibility and competitive advantage and career momentum. You don't need more AI. You don't need more tools. You don't need more pilots. You just need better judgment about where AI belongs. You need the clarity to distinguish between theater and transformation, and the courage to kill projects that aren't working, and the strategic discipline to focus your resources on the automations that actually create leverage. Because here's the truth that nobody else is telling you. Most companies aren't wasting millions on AI. And most leaders will automate all the wrong things. And most executives will tell the wrong story about their AI wins. But not you. You're the leader who sees the pattern, who asks the hard questions, who measures outcomes instead of activity, and who has the confidence to say no to shiny distractions and yes to strategic focus. That's what makes you rise. And when you rise, you create permission for everyone around you to rise too. Your team gets to do more meaningful work. Your company gets to win faster, and your industry gets better leadership. This isn't just about AI, it's about the kind of leader you're becoming. So go do that audit and be ruthless and be strategic. And 6 months from now, come back and tell me how your story changed. Thanks for listening to The Rise with Sterling Phoenix. If this episode gave you clarity, take a moment and subscribe on Substack to keep your momentum in motion. No fluff, no filler, just bold strategies for leaders who are building something that actually matters. Because this is your moment. The decisions you make this quarter will define your trajectory for the next 5 years. So make them count. Here's the truth. Good is crowded. Burnout is optional. Leaders rise when they choose clarity. This is The Rise.